Hello, Jen, Max. So excited to have a happy hour, a live stream today. And I've got someone very exciting to share with you, and that is Jen. Here she is from Expatsi. So Jen lives in Mexico, and we're gonna cross our fingers that her internet connection stays strong because she's been experiencing some thunderstorms there. Um, but Jen, maybe you can just start out and tell us what Expatsi is. So that'll kind of be a nice introduction to our conversation here about living abroad.
Absolutely. So I love that you say Gen Mex because I say that I'm Gen because I'm Gen and I'm in Mexico and I'm Gen X.
So this may happen throughout our call today as Jen and I were getting ready for the call. She did have a couple of freeze ups. As I mentioned, there is thunderstorm activity in Merida where Jen is. So we might be having like on and off Jen in the video. So, however, we can still have fun together. And so I'm going to kick this off as a happy hour by talking about the drink that I'm drinking. And hopefully, oh, there's Jen. She's back.
Hello, thank you. What Expatsy is, by the way, my little dog here, Squeaky, is afraid of thunderstorms. That's why he is in my lap like a little baby. But Expatsy helps Americans who want to move abroad, and especially in the way that Americans, we haven't all traveled as much as we would like to, and we know we might want to move. And so when they don't know where to get started, we point them in the right direction.
Cool. Well, we're going to talk about getting started today. And what's special about this episode of Almost Retired in Mexico is that we're not only talking about Mexico, we're talking about anywhere in the world. So many of you, we did a little survey. I wish I had that graphic, and it seemed like about half the people who were looking at moving to Mexico were also considering other countries. So I didn't ask what other countries they were considering, but it's still, there's a lot of folks out there who are open to the idea, myself included, of living in another country besides Mexico. So maybe we can start with just some basics of, what are the top three things that people need to be considering when they're in that first beginning part of choosing a country to live in? Like, my Spanish is meh. I will have a video about how I'm trying to learn Spanish, by the way, because I'm trying everything. Wow, and I've got like fireworks going on behind me. That's new. So we'll talk about those fireworks in Spanish. What are they? Fuentes or somebody help me out here. Oh, I need to be watching my chat. So I do want to encourage you all to be in the chat too. I have not done that yet. So in the chat, I would love for you to tell me who you are and where you are dialing in from. So that'll be our first question to be in the chat. And so, yeah, as I surveyed people were looking at many different places. And there is, the question as people start this, I was joking with Jen as we were getting ready that, yes, you can just move to England if you wanted, because that's where they speak English. Maybe not. So things are, depending on where you are in your journey to living overseas, you might be just at the beginning. So maybe you can start with, when folks are at the beginning, what are the things that they really need to be thinking about?
The number one thing to figure out is where you can go and how you're going to get there. Everybody comes to us and they're absolutely fixated on a country they want to move to, and they haven't stopped to figure out if they can. And the first thing you need to do is figure out where you can go. So you need to have $5,000 saved, first of all, at a minimum. And then you need to know if you have critical skills that other countries need, different in every country. If you have a business that supports you enough that you can live on your own, then you can go on a digital nomad visa or a self-employment visa. Or if you have a business plan that would start an important business in another country. Or if you have retirement income to live on, or if you have money to invest in another country, or if you are open to getting a degree or studying a language in another country. So the most important thing is for you to figure out your path. Once you figure out your path, and it's okay to have to pick two and try them both, and then eventually go with the one that's more successful. If you start looking for a job overseas, but you also start looking into getting your own clients, and the client's path takes off and the job hunt doesn't, then stick with that. But figure that out first, because that's going to inform your list of countries. For example, like you pointed out, you cannot retire to the UK. Likewise, you cannot work locally in Costa Rica. So if you try to first and then shoehorn your way in through whatever their visa paths are, you're just going to give yourself a world of hurt. That is the most important first thing. The second thing is, we say there are 6 steps moving abroad, 6 stages. Ideation is just fantasy land. One day we're going to retire and drink margaritas on the beach. Planning is what we just talked about. Where can I go? How do I get there? Stage 3 is, where do I want to go? So I figured out that I can move to one of these 5 countries. So I'm going to go spend time in those 5 countries, or I'm going to do research, or I'm going to look at taxes, figure out where I want to go. Stage 4 is paperwork. So up until then, you're window shopping. But stage 4 is where you pick a store and you walk in and you buy. Stage 5 is logistics. So what am I going to keep, sell, toss, store, donate? Am I going to rent or sell my home? Am I going to buy or rent in a new country? And then finally settle again, which is the rest of your life, So learning a language, finding a GP, joining a pickleball league, or whatever else. And the other biggest mistake we see people do is they try to operate in all 6 stages at once. And it doesn't make any sense. If you're trying to find the perfect GP, but you end up not being able to move that country, then that's wasted time.
Great. Thank you for that. That is wonderful advice to do things in the right order. And it'd be interesting to see here. I'm going to list off who's here and where they're from, just to kind of give you an idea. And also, at the same time, I'm asking question number 2, which is, of those phases, those of you who are here, what phase are you in? Are you in that beginning phase of dreaming? Are you kind of working your way through and working on getting your residency permit, or learning your Spanish because you've already moved there? So really quickly, what were the 5 or the 6 phases once more?
Ideation, planning, exploration, paperwork, logistics, and settling in.
Okay, perfect. So as I'm getting you guys, showing who's here, so we've got someone watching from Australia. Very nice, a place that many folks would like to go, but Jen can tell us the probability of that one.
Say again.
So the probability of getting being able to move to Australia, is that a country that's kind of up there in that top?
It's a good place to go if you have critical skills, because it is one of these wealthy countries that needs a lot of workers, and it's especially a place for healthcare workers, especially physicians and nurses, because your credentials are easy to transfer to Australia and to New Zealand.
Awesome. Of course, Ra's not looking for probably moving to Australia because he's already watching from Australia, or maybe he's a digital nomad there, or she.
There is a working holiday visa for folks who are under 30, or Americans who are under 30, and you can go there and just kind of play it fast and loose and study, or do odd jobs and things like that.
Okay, great. We have enough time travel. So that's either enough time travel or enough time travel, which could be kind of fun.
I like both.
From San Francisco, thanks for being here. Mags from PDX, not too far from me, within a mile. Thanks for being here, Mags. Brenda from Wisconsin. We've got Sarah in Northern Carolina, or Northern Colorado, leaving to live full-time in La Paz. So transitioning into that 6th phase.
Congratulations, Sarah. I always want like a confetti cannon for whenever anyone says that they've got their move figured out.
I'm trying to do whatever thing made it do the background fireworks.
I can't ever figure it out either. Or maybe it's this. I know, it's so surprising, and on every Zoom call you're on, and then, I don't know.
watching from New York.
Hello.
And let's see here. Things are okay. So thank you guys for being here. Mags is looking into school options.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, so getting a student visa, maybe we can talk about that. Um, and settling in, Sarah, congratulations. Um, so Karen is kind of in that early debating stage, which is great. Ecuador, Mexico, and Colombia.
That's three, exploration. So Karen probably knows that she wants to move abroad as a nomad or a retiree or an investor. And so she's choosing between those three countries, and they're all three great. And it just depends on what you like. There are cost of living differences. There are slight differences in the visa paths and in taxes. And of course, food and culture.
Yep. Currently, Cindy and Vince currently in Canada exploring and learning Spanish. Very good.
Well,
Um,
felicidades.
Oh, so I think this was Brenda, was fluent in Spanish, has a temporary residency card for 2 more years, needs to go on more scouting trips to find where she feels a connection. So if you've got a temporary residency card, I assume that means you've chosen Mexico, I think is what you've chosen probably on this channel, and are trying to decide where inside Mexico.
One
Um,
tip I would give you is that we learned that you can buy for $499 a Volaris pass, and then you can fly anywhere around Mexico on Volaris, and all you have to pay is like the airport fees. So you might fly for $14 or $20. So if you decided that you wanted to, say, start in Vallarta and live there, but then visit or Oaxaca or San Miguel de Allende or Merida or wherever, you can just hop on.
I love that idea of the Volaris Pass. I don't know anyone who's done it personally, but it's a great idea. One thing to note, I did just buy tickets to Guadalajara, and from La Paz to Guadalajara, and the airport fee was almost as much as the ticket. So I think that might be something that was like $35 or something like that. So the tickets are pretty cheap, and that was a more expensive ticket compared to the days before and after. But I needed to land on a specific day. So, um, okay, I'm going to continue going down here. Ra from Australia is planning to move to Mexico.
Oh, nice.
Very, very good. Decluttering. Yes. Maybe you have some tips on that of how to clean up your life in the US or Canada before you can make it move and head into Guadalajara. Yes. Like I said, February. Here's a little preview. February, early February, 7th, 8th, 9th, or something like that. There's going to be a big meetup of 15 YouTubers of Mexico. So we're all getting
Wow.
together in Ajijic. So it's a pretty fun time, and we'll have
Wow.
a big
That sounds
meetup on a Saturday
fantastic.
night. So
That sounds
uh,
fun.
yeah, it's going to be great. Um, Used to live in Guadalajara 10 years ago, Central Highland. Yeah, the Central Highlands are wonderful. So, but let's go back to Jen and kind of um, what are the next things that people need, once they've got those 6 phases. So maybe you can tell us some of the other um, hurdles that people face, like that decluttering. And
Yeah.
for the most part, people are a little bit older on this channel, so getting closer to retirement, maybe not quite yet at retirement. So probably less so in the digital visa era and more so in the I need to clean out my house because I'm selling it era.
Yeah. So stage 5, logistics. That's when downsizing comes in. Now, of course, you can do it along the way in little bits if you do. If you're somebody who can do that. For us personally, we got rid of everything in 3 weeks, and we just did it. We had a yard sale. We sold big ticket items on Facebook Marketplace, and then we listed the house. Um, Now, that isn't going to work for everyone. That is how we did it. For people who really struggle, I recommend getting an estate sale person, and they'll come in and just clear everything out. You won't make as much off of it, but it'll save you that emotional burden. Now, 2 things I want to say about that. One is that the emotional hurdles are the biggest part of moving abroad. There are external obstacles and internal obstacles, and the internal obstacles are 90% obstacles because of fears. and just the hardship of starting a project that's challenging. But the thing that I did when it came to downsizing that helped me, I had every memento from my whole life. And I mean, notes I passed in fourth grade. And a lot of it, as I was sitting there going through it to get rid of it, because I'm not going to sell it. Who wants my, that stuff? I started to realize that these mementos were all sort of like imaginary exhibits for a court case I thought I was going to try at the end of my life, where I was going to have to prove to someone that I had been somebody, that I had done cool stuff, that I had been young and cute and loved. And the thing that I realized sitting there was that first of all, there is no court case at the end of your life. There wasn't anyone to prove that I had been mattered. Mm-hmm. But also that I was old enough now that I could internalize those feelings. And so I was like, you know what? I was this cute. I did have these adventures. I did do this work that I'm proud of. And I took some photos of some of the stuff that was especially meaningful. And then I subjected my husband to I was like, read this paper I wrote in 1989 so that someone can appreciate it. And then I let it go. And I realized that the adventures I was going to have on the horizon were better than any tangible proof I had that I went to Anne Rice's Halloween party in 1994. Well, yeah, it was cool, but I don't need to prove that,
Mm-hmm. I love this idea because I'm just thinking of a couple of boxes that I have in my basement because I've got my tools, which I just can't get rid of. And I live half time in Mexico, half time in the United States. But we're trying to clear out our house and get to the point where it's easier to rent it. Currently, we rent only a half of the house. So it would be, if we really cleared out the house, we could rent the whole thing and make more money while we're in Mexico. But I've got a couple of those boxes, which are that proof of my past.
It's true. It's true.
I think it would be very mature of me to maybe give up some of that stuff, but maybe make my wife look through some of it. She actually just threw away a plaque that she got from her boss 20 some years ago. And it was just sitting around, but it was she was so proud of that plaque when she first got it, but it was time to release it. I love the idea of taking pictures of things because then we can just put it up, load it up into the digital world. That way it's not taking up any space. And if we really, really want to get back to it, we can find our way back.
Absolutely. You can make a YouTube video where you go through these two unboxing your life, and you go through and you show all of your, I had the silliest stuff, and some of it was really funny. But at the end of the day, it was just weighing me down. If it was a reason why I certainly wasn't going to bring it to Mexico. And and it was silly to stay in one place because of it. I do think I had an ex who was a little bit of a hoarder, and you pay rent on these things emotionally and physically. And it's which do I serve this stuff or does this stuff serve me?
Yeah, that is a great point. So I want to get to a couple of things here. First off, Wilfredo says that he moved to Querétaro, one of my favorite places.
Wow.
In Mexico. Gorgeous, gorgeous place. Someone from Virginia, my son is an RN. Are there jobs in Mexico? So this actually would be a good time to talk about job searching overseas. So for folks who do want to continue working, what should they be thinking about, and what countries are more, like you mentioned, Australia would be good. And I'm assuming that's partly because Australian wages are maybe competitive with the United States, where my guess is when you start to talk about medical wages, I know in Ajijic, a nurse, so someone with medical training made what was it, $5 an hour, I think was the going rate for a Mexican nurse to come and help you at your house if you're medically needing that. So yeah, you can address those those things out there.
For sure. My opinion on it is this. I think that there are wealthy countries, right? I mean, I don't think this is true. There are wealthy countries: Canada, US, UK, Ireland, the Nordics, Germany, Australia, New Zealand, Singapore, UAE, Japan, South Korea, let's say. And those countries are really, really wealthy, and they want labor. They have more money than they have people to do the jobs that they need done, because they're these huge economies. And so they want people to come there only if they have skills that that country needs. What those skills are depend on the country. You know, there's certain things that are in demand everywhere. But for example, in Europe, they really need CDL drivers. They really need all sorts of construction trades, in addition to things you're used to, like tech or nurses. Then there are what I call middle class countries. So most of Central and South America, plus Mexico, parts of Africa, Southern Europe, Eastern Europe, parts of Southeast Asia, and they want money. So they have a younger population, so they have plenty of young people to do jobs, but the jobs don't pay enough. So what they want is for you to come in with your pension or your Social Security or your investment or your foreign income and spend it in local shops and pay local taxes. And that benefits the country the most, because it makes the wages go up for these jobs that locals are doing. Where this becomes, and so that's just a little rule of thumb. So if you are thinking about being a retiree or a digital nomad, think about those middle class countries. And if you are thinking about being a skilled local worker, then think about those wealthy countries. Yeah, there are, it doesn't mean that there aren't options in both or whatever, but that's a good rule of thumb. And when this is challenging, something that has changed for us in Expatsi recently is that we have a lot of multi-generational families who want to go. So we might have very elderly grandparents, and then let's say Gen X parents, and then young adult kids, and they all need different things because they're at different places in their lives. And so one challenge is to find a place that suits everyone, and that isn't necessarily always going to happen. So what I usually recommend is a place like Europe, where let's say the kids who want to go to school can go to Germany and go to college for free. The grandparents can retire to the south of Spain, where they have excellent medical care and can go as retirees, and maybe the self-employed parents can go to wherever, you know, they can get a self-employment visa, whatever appeals to them. Let's say they go to get the DAF visa in the Netherlands. And keep in mind that when you're in Europe, it's kind of like being in different states. You know, you just hop on a train or hop in the car or take one of these little $40 flights, and you aren't that far apart. In Mexico, it would be different. If you're right, the wages would be shocking. But let's say that the son wanted to be an RN in Mexico City or in Cancun or someplace where wages were probably a little bit higher, and cost of living is lower too, so it matches up in that way. But then maybe, Bonnie, if you're retired or you want to be retired, then maybe you end up someplace that's more retirement focused, and then you still aren't that far apart.
Awesome. I love that answer. And one other thing to throw out there is you can start a business in Mexico.
Yes.
And that's pretty much just open to anyone who has, you know, a visa, and you can become like the person who connects the foreigners to the local healthcare system.
Absolutely.
Better paid than
Absolutely.
the local healthcare system. So especially
That's
if
right.
you're, you know, looking to place elderly people into care homes, and you speak Spanish, so you can
Yeah.
kind of be the bridge. So there's a lot of options there.
And then you come work with me, because I could definitely use somebody like that. I love what Lupita said. Letting go of stuff does not mean letting go of the story.
Oh, I love that. I haven't gotten down to that point. I'm going to pull this one. I don't want to miss this comment from Margaret. Easy to dream, but moving can be a hurdle. What makes it easier? So how do you move up those steps, besides clearing out your clutter?
Okay, so I have, this is a plug, but we're launching an app in a month, because It's a web app, because I think the biggest piece is delving down into bite-sized steps. Like when you think about, if you use Duolingo, you don't sign into Duolingo and you're fluent. You sign into Duolingo and you learn the word for apple. And then in a few days, you learn the word for woman. And over
And
time, you
green
build
shirt.
up. Exactly. So funny. Montana. You build up over time. And that's what we're trying to do as well. I think that it is a matter, it's just project management and how good you are at project management. Now, if you're talking about what will make it more likely that you're successful once you get there, then it's socializing.
Project management, and that's an app. So there's also a
Yeah.
conference coming up. I know Margaret actually. I know Margaret, and she had mentioned the conference, and I was like, oh, that's the plan. That's the person I'm doing this interview with. You got to come in and join. So conference. We'll talk about the conference later on too. So
You're breaking up a little
hola.
for me. I don't know if it is for everyone or if it's just me.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
no, now
So
you're good. Now you're good.
oh, okay. Well, hopefully we'll cross our fingers that it's good.
Okay.
But the conference is coming up later this month.
November 4th through 9th, we're having our first ever Move Abroad week. We had our first in-person conference in May in San Antonio, but obviously a lot of people didn't want to come to Texas. So we are having our first virtual conference. And so it's 5 days with 40 talks. And so it's, I mean, a ton of people and their wisdom and all the steps of moving abroad.
Awesome. So that's going to go much deeper than we're going today, but this is fun to be able to get your questions answered.
It is
And
fun
so-
and have happy hour.
Oh yeah, exactly. Let's take Wilfredo's question off there, and we'll talk about our happy hour, because this is happy hour, and I like because it's it's Mexico. There's always happy hour going on, it seems. So I do want to ask Jen what's inside her cup. And then I'm going to ask all of you what's inside your cups. If you're partaking in happy hour, put that in the chat.
Very nice. I am having a Portuguese Vino Verde. I love a light green young wine, with that's really fresh and light. And Portuguese wine is my favorite. So that's what I'm having. And there is one store where I can find the wine that I like here in Merida.
Interesting. Yeah. So Portugal is a country that we should maybe talk about because things have changed there. That's a good. People still talking about Portugal. Maybe things have changed. But I want to talk about what I'm having here because I was inspired by my video that's coming out this Sunday with Joy from Puerto Penasco. And when I was interviewing her, her husband was making these, I call them Jose cafes. So it's coffee with tequila and Kahlua. It was making them iced because it
That
was
sounds
Puerto Penasco,
amazing.
and it was and cream too. Also, he was whipping the cream and everything. So he's in the back of the video. You'll see it. He's pouring out, and then he kept bringing them over. We ended up with going through 3 of them, and I'm normally not a coffee drinker, which is probably why I'm speaking faster than normal. And the coffee, the tequila, it was all wonderful. But it inspired me because I was just working with my editor on that. And I was like, oh, I need to have one of those coffees. So that's what I'm drinking today.
Wow, that sounds fantastic. I would definitely drink that.
Yes. So let's see here. I want to, Amy is red wine in the hot tub. So if you don't know
That sounds
Destination,
even nicer.
do you know Amy by any chance? Amy is in
No.
Merida, Destination
hi.
Retirement. She has a YouTube channel. And she has a couple of places there in Merida.
Amy, I am in Cholul.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm not sure where Amy, I mean, I've been to Amy's places, but I don't know what the neighborhoods are. So Amy's great though. Coffee with a little sugar, that works. It doesn't have to have alcohol in it. Let's see here. Ooh, someone's having a coconut vodka martini.
Cucumber.
Ooh, thank you very much. Cucumber. I just put coconut in there because that's what I would have put in there.
No, I love the idea of cucumber, especially if it has mint or basil. I
Ooh,
love an
yes.
herbal drink.
Oh, waiting on a delayed flight. Well, thank you for joining from the airport. Um, and I'm trying to go through and
Brian, do
sort
you
through.
remember when you used to have to, there was nothing to do at the airport and they had TVs, but you had to put a quarter in?
I don't remember a quarter, but I do remember the TVs that were always playing like CNN Airport Network. That was
No,
a
this is
thing. Like,
before. This is before CNN was out. And you'd have to put a quarter in and you would get 15 minutes of television viewing.
interesting. Yeah, that times have changed. Ooh, chocolate wine. It's like a milkshake with a little buzz. I've not had chocolate. I've had chocolate tequila, which is great. Um, Cindy says she loves chocolate wine. Um,
I never heard of
and
it.
yeah, okay. So let's see here. I'm going to go back through here and pull up some stuff. Um, Wilfredo says he moved to Querétaro with a 14-year-old. Plenty of options for schooling. That's something definitely to consider. Is if you've got school-age kids, where and where are the areas where you will have international schools? Um,
Do you know we
and
also do these scouting trips? We do tours all over
hmm,
Mexico, and our our guide in Playa del Carmen, she's doing the Quintana Roo tour, and so it's Cancun, Cozumel, Playa del Carmen, Playa Car, Tulum, and Acapulco. And she has kids in two different schools because they're very different. And so one is in like a real STEM program, and one is in more of an international school. And I was impressed at all the options in Playa del Carmen.
interesting. Yeah, definitely. It seems like wherever there's a lot of foreigners living in Mexico, um, A, it's going to be safer because foreigners choose to live in the safe places, and B, there's more likely to be schools because foreigners need those services. So,
Right.
if you're looking for things that are things that foreigners look for other foreigners. I guess it's pretty simple.
That's
Um,
funny.
so, okay, so Wilfredo, who moved to Querétaro, Portugal was in his top three. So let's talk about Portugal a little bit, just because
Yeah,
that was something that everyone was talking about moving to Portugal just a few years ago.
they still are. They still are. It is by far our number one most chosen destination. Now, I think more people move to Mexico. It's much more practical, but it is where we sell the most tours. It is where we refer the most visas. It is incredibly popular. Now, I don't know if it will always be that way. They have made the visa programs less and less and less friendly over time. But I think it has taken this long for word of mouth to get out about how great it is. Like, I think people in the beginning moved there because it was like tax breaks, easy visas. But what they wrote home about is how much they love it. And so the people who are going now don't get those same tax breaks or the same as many easy visas, but they're going because people who live there now just really love it. It's so safe. Um, it has similar values to what they're looking for. You know, it's easy access to the rest of Europe. Right now, it's still only 5 years to citizenship, which is EU citizenship. That could change before too long, but we don't know. And so I do think it has a lot going for it. This is actually, this is one of my Portugal themed dresses to look like the tiles there that we wear during,
Oh,
we just finished Portugal month on our site. And I have to say, it would be a strong contender for us as well.
okay, good to know. Yeah, I was thinking that it was kind of had gotten prohibitive in
It's
terms of
because we're so in the business of moving abroad. It seems like old news, but it isn't. People are just every day hearing about, oh, I could move to Portugal. Now we have backup choices. You know, I think the big sleepers are Albania, Estonia, Slovenia, and Uruguay. And so that's what we're looking at next. But far and away, Portugal, number one
Mhm.
all the time. Isn't that wild? It's so
Yeah.
little.
Yes, exactly. Um, okay, so Cindy is going to Puerto Vallarta and plan to check out La Paz. Is it a good place for retirement? I think so.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
it is hot. Puerto Vallarta is hot too, and humid. La Paz is hot and dry. Merida, that's true. It is hot, 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 and humid, humid, humid. So,
The furnace of Mexico is what they call it.
yep. Okay, let's see here. So, something simple for the wife and I in our 60s. View the ocean would be nice at the balcony or rooftop. Um, yeah, so lots of options. Let's see, you're going to Puerto Penasco. That was what she said earlier. And so Puerto Penasco, for those of you who don't know, because I didn't know just a couple
I
months
don't know.
ago, is also called Rocky Point, and it is right at the northernmost tip of the Gulf of California. So
Oh,
kind of
okay.
right there, just an hour south of the Arizona border. So very
Oh,
close to the
easy,
U.S.
easy. Mhm.
And yeah, an easy drive from Phoenix and Tucson. So they're also known as Arizona's beach. So
Oh,
because it's such a it's where people go to the beach. So lots of weekenders, but of course a local population of foreigners too.
I bet
Um,
you don't even need a tip there.
a tip? No, I don't think you do. A tip being the temporary import permit for your car. So a, for almost all of the mainland in Mexico, you need to have a permit, which is like a $400 deposit and some paperwork, and you have to get your car back out of the country. It's a guarantee that you're not going to leave your car or sell it in Mexico. Um, it is
I
not
have one.
necessary. Yes, in
It's
Merida
a
you need it.
pain.
In La Paz you don't need it. In the Baja Peninsula and just a little bit of the top of the Gulf of California, you don't need a tip. So one of the easy things. And permanent residents can drive out of country cars. So I can still drive a car with US plates on it. Um, so yeah, maybe are there other things like that? Some little things like that that might drive someone to choose, like kind of curious things. Like for instance, if you get your permanent residency, you can't drive an out of country car anymore in Mexico.
Yes.
Are there other things where you're like, oh yeah, over in France, you can't, drink wine unless you have a permanent residency or something like that?
Honestly, I mean, it's kind of hard to know what some of those things are. I always say that I'm people's triage nurse. You come in and tell me your symptoms, and I try to get you to the right place, but I'm not a specialist. So I don't know everything. I only know the Mexico stuff because we're here. But there were plenty of times, it took us 8 days to drive to Merida from Birmingham, Alabama. And there were plenty of times where I said, oh my God, if we just have moved to San Miguel de Allende, we'd be home already. And it
And it'd be a lot
was,
cooler.
oh yeah, absolutely. At the same time, we just really love it here, and you acclimate and all that stuff. But the little stuff like the tip, this is a perfect example of that you want to deal with these, but you don't want to deal with the stuff in the beginning because you'll get bogged down, and it gives people the impression that there is infinite stuff that they don't know, and there isn't. There isn't infinite stuff that you don't know. There is little stuff that you don't know that will have some impact on your life or might cost money. But like one thing here is blood donation. So when you need a blood transfusion or you need blood, you pay for it, or you can get like friends, family, strangers to come donate blood on your behalf. And we did that recently for someone that we had just heard about, a friend of a friend, and they wouldn't take mine. They would only, because I was too common or whatever, and they took Brett's. But things like that you would just never imagine that you give blood on demand. But we learned in the Facebook groups, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. And you have to kind of know yourself and your ability to encounter something that is unusual to you and not think that's weird or I don't like it, and just, okay, this is, here we do it this way. And it's like, all right, and then and then that's what you do. And I think that's a big part of moving abroad, because the weirdest thing of all the stuff we've heard about is the way that in Germany you rent apartments with no kitchen. That's the weirdest thing I think I've heard about of all the stuff. Here, for me, the weirdest thing about living in Mexico is eating Worcestershire sauce on pizza. I think that is the weirdest.
That must be a Merida thing or something, because we don't have
It
Worcestershire
might
sauce
be.
at all, I think, in La Paz.
Oh my gosh, every pizza you get it. And I save the packets because I actually need Worcestershire sauce to like cook with and stuff. I tried on the pizza. It's disgusting.
It's
But I
also
saved, yeah, go ahead.
fried. Here's a La Paz thing, which is weird because we're on the ocean and seafood's a big thing. But fried chicken inside your sushi, like there are sushi places, but they don't have enough volume that they don't have any fresh fish, so they put fried chicken inside, uh, and uh, and Philadelphia cream cheese, but they call it
Oh, that's
Philadelphia.
huge here. They call it Philadelphia here also. And it's in every sushi roll. I can't stand.
Yep, it's always there. But you guys have marquisetas, right?
That's right, Marcus.
Oh my God, those things are
Marcasitas.
so amazing. Okay,
Yeah.
let's get back to our comments here. Um,
Okay.
so Dave from Nova Scotia says his wife's first choice would be the Tuscany area. So what about Italy? It wasn't something that you mentioned. They had $1 houses for a while.
They still do. They still have €1 houses. One thing about Italy, there is what's called the elective visa. If you want to go as a retiree and you need about $3,000 a month in passive income, I don't know that it's not drivable. I
It's oh no, sorry, drivable from Nova Scotia. I know
oh
Dave. He has dogs, so he
oh got
needs
it
to be
got it
able to
got it.
drive them. That's why he's looking at Mexico.
Now that said, this is part of why we are in Mexico, is because we moved with 4 animals, and it was nice to just throw everybody in the car and head down, especially when you have a big meathead who is brachycephalic and all that stuff.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons we're in La Paz, because Baja California Sur is so easy to get to. It's really easy to be a part-time resident too, with that the way the license plates work on your car. Um,
Yes.
so yeah, let's see here. So looking at Morelia and Pátzcuaro, I think is how it's pronounced. And I'm not even going to try to pronounce the others.
I'm going to try Atlixco,
Okay, that sounds
Tlaxcala,
good.
Tlaxcala, I'm
Tlaxcala.
guessing. Or it could be like Oaxaca, where it's like La Cala.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so
The
yeah,
wine makes me brave.
considering Asia and Europe, everyone should be considered. Yeah, because that's something. Mexico is super convenient, and the culture is wonderful. It's affordable. It's possible to get those visas if you have some money in the bank. Um, but one of the big things for a lot of people is you can bring your dog in because you can drive them
Yes.
over, and you can drive back and forth to the United States, and you can fly back and forth to the United States really easy if you've got family
Yes.
or friends that you want to visit. Asia, you're talking 20-hour flight.
Yeah.
So it's
We
not
we
easy. I
went to
know
San
someone.
Diego for one day
Wow.
Friday.
Wow. Yeah. So Tim over in La Paz actually moved to Guadalajara. One of the reasons he's living in Mexico, he had been living in Asia, and his children started having babies. So grandpa didn't want to live halfway around the world anymore. He wanted to live in closer to the babies, but still the United States was not an affordable place for him. So he chose Mexico, and he's loving it there.
I
Um,
love it. I love it here. No regrets.
yep. Definitely. So let's see here. So someone asking about Hurricane Lorena in La Paz. There was definitely lots and lots and lots of rain, but it didn't affect our house. Or at least our caretaker hasn't told us that it's affected our house. We look at the cameras every once in a while, and we don't see any water inside the house or anything. So I think it's doing pretty well. Yeah, Portugal became a little too popular. And let's see here.
So listen, that said, and it depends on what you mean by affordable, and it depends on what you mean by popular. And certainly, if you try to live in the Lisbon city center in a high rise, it can be really pricey. And there are other neighborhoods, really high-end neighborhoods, especially like Cascais and whatever. But if you go just a little bit off the beaten path, Caldas or Óbidos or Ercera, or a million other places that we go on our tours, it really is still affordable. It isn't Vietnam prices, But considering that you're living in this beautiful European country where you get public health care after 3 months and wine costs $1, I think that it's still a good value. Also,
Yeah.
you still only need about $900 a month in passive income to qualify for a retirement visa.
Wow, that's great because I mean Mexico, what you need has gone up significantly.
And it's going up a lot in January.
Is it going up? Yeah, because I think this was the year where
Like
they were
double
supposed to
digits.
re kind of configure it, recalculate it, but they didn't. It went up instead of down. So yeah, it's getting to be a country where only people who have significant savings or significant income can
Agreed.
move to. So let's see here. So and someone says wine. So yeah, Mexican
Yeah,
wine is
wine
not
is
cheap even in Mexico. So wine is never inexpensive, but Portugal sounds like it's the place.
yeah, it's cheaper than bottled water for sure.
Yeah. Well, here's a question I have for you. What is the right country, if there is one, for someone who's a type A personality? Because Mexico is not it. And I say this often in my videos. If you are type A and you expect things to be by the book and done efficiently and quickly and on your timeline, you're not going to be happy in Mexico because that's not the way things work in Mexico. And it's really great if you can adjust to that because there's no expectation of things working that way. And it's really a very healthy way to live. But if someone out there watching this live stream is a type A, is there a spot where they can move as a foreigner, a country that would be right for that personality, where the culture would match that personality?
That's a great question. And I will tell you, I am a super type A. I mean, to the nth. I hate to say it, but it's true, right? I run my own business. It is out of control. I work 7 days a week, sometimes 14, 18 hours a day. But I don't expect other people to work like that for me. I expect that I have got to solve that problem myself. If by type A, you're talking about the kind of people who expect other people to do what you want them to do, no. Mexicans keep their peace. My favorite story about this happened in Merida, which was a guy posted on the Facebook group, and he said, I can't believe what happened to me in an ice cream shop tonight. I went and then I asked for a sample of ice cream, and then I bought a liter. And then I asked for another sample, and I bought a liter. And then I asked for another sample, and I bought a liter. And I did that a few more times. And then they said no more samples. And why wouldn't they offer me a sample when I was going to buy a liter every time? And at first I thought, yeah, why wouldn't you just keep giving him samples and keep selling him liters of ice cream? But then I realized he was a dick. Like, so I'm sorry if that's not allowed. Listen, but a nice person wouldn't post about this. And like he named the ice cream place. A nice person wouldn't post about this on the group. They'd just say, you know what? I don't love the customer service there. I'm going to go to a different ice cream store.
Yep.
Or they'd be like, you know what? I probably asked for enough samples and like maybe take a risk and just buy a dang liter. You like their ice cream, just buy a liter and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that nobody needs $1 here to survive. They have their family. You can rent a place. I'm exaggerating here, but you could rent a little Mayan hut for $25 a month, and I'm allowed to sell things on the street. I've never seen a homeless person in Merida. And so if you have your support structure of your family and you have love and you have a place to live, and my God, there's more food than I've ever seen in my life on every corner, then maybe you don't have to kiss somebody's ass after they ask for the 8th ice cream sample. And you can say, you know what? Enough. Like, and that really spoke to me. And so I still push myself to that degree, but I don't expect it from others. I expect that they get to choose how type A they want to be, and I shouldn't expect things from them. Now, that said, I would prefer that Americans who feel like other people should do things on their schedule to stay in the U.S. Because that is where the almighty dollar rules. And we have our hierarchies. And if you're more important or if you have more money, you can get things done on your schedule. Just stay home. That said, if you want really efficient, I would go to Germany or Switzerland.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for getting that answer along with lots of background. And I totally agree with you. Yeah, you need to adjust to the culture where you're moving. So figure that out. That's part of it. So speaking of culture, Cuenca, Ecuador.
So I'm taking my first trip to Cuenca in November. Margaret, we have a group scouting trip there if you're interested. And we're going to spend half the time in Cuenca and half the time in Manta, which is on the water. But I have heard this too. They use the US dollar. You can live on, a couple can live on $1,400 a month, and they don't tax any foreign income. That includes Social Security, pensions, or if you're earning money on YouTube or whatever else.
Nice. Of course, you will still have to pay to the almighty United States if you're from the U.S.
Of course.
Yes, you'll never get away from taxes if you're from the U.S. And that's something, well, maybe, we're getting close to the end here, but maybe you could tell people who are in the beginning of this journey about being a tourist, being a resident, or being a citizen. Because I think a lot of people start to think, I need to become a citizen of another country. But
yeah, very common. We get asked that a lot. And it's a lot of times it's people who started out the path of trying to get citizenship by ancestry in Italy. And then that fell through with all the changes. And they're like, okay, where else can I be a citizen? And it's like, hey, do you have to be a citizen? You really don't. Like, of course, things can happen. We see what's going on in the US where residency is maybe not being honored, or maybe even naturalized citizenship is not being honored, and I can't predict the future. But in general, a resident, and especially a permanent resident, gets every benefit that a local citizen gets. You do have to file taxes forever in the United States unless you renounce your citizenship. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you will always have to pay in the US or that you will always have to pay in the new country. It depends on where you go, how you earn your money, how much money it is, and then how much time you spend in each country, and so on. Now, I do think that there are paths for tourists. Somebody on one of our lives said, what if I spent 6 months in Canada and 6 months in Mexico? And I was like, I cannot find a flaw in this plan, because Americans can spend 6 months in Canada as tourists and 6 months in Mexico as tourists. So you could spend every summer in Canada and every winter in Mexico. You would spend a lot in Canada, but you could. So I think that going as a tourist is a really viable way to start the process if you aren't sure where you want to go and you don't have time to scout before you make your move. Just like pick up and go. There are a lot of places, Mexico isn't one of them, but there are a lot of countries where you can apply for your residency after you get there. Costa Rica, Panama, Uruguay, Ecuador, Colombia, and even Spain if you're going as a digital nomad. And so you can go see how you like it, try it on for size, and then go from there.
Yeah, that's great. And actually, I want to throw in for the person who's thinking 6 months in Canada, who's an American thinking 6 months in Canada and 6 months in Mexico. And I want to throw out to Andrew from the, I can't think of his channel, Nomad, I can't think of the name. But anyway, he would say, throw in a third country.
That Mexican tequila coffee.
Yes, exactly. On coffee and tequila. Nomad Capitalist, Andrew from Nomad Capitalist, would say throw in a third country, because if you don't spend more than 6 months in any one country, you can often
one
avoid
day.
taxation.
You come home, you come back to the U.S. for Christmas Day.
Yep. Yeah. You keep it under 6 months in every country, and you can start to avoid taxation. Of course, you can't avoid the U.S. taxes, except, as you mentioned, depending on how you earn your money. So there's ways to do that. That's something for Andrew to discuss. But I do want you to tell us more about that conference that's coming up before we finish up here. So for folks who are interested in moving abroad, what do you have for them?
Thank you. Okay. So we have our website, expatsi.com, expatsi.com, and you can go and take the Expatsi test and see what your results would be. I should have said this at the beginning, and then they could have done it and come told us their results. But besides the point, well, I'll just have to come back, Brighton. But you can go there and take the quiz. And then November 4th through 9th, we're having our first virtual conference. It's going to be 40 talks from people from 6 continents around the world. We're going to talk about moving to their countries, taxes, finances, visas, moving pets, and everything in between. So if you are not sure where you want to go, where to get started, you can come for one price and see all of these people speak and make your notes and really leave with a timeline and an action plan of what to do next.
Awesome. And folks can use the link down below and below this YouTube video to sign up for that. So yeah, I guess before we wrap up today, is there anything else? I do have a question here about temporary residency in Mexico. Yes, you have 6 months, as people said in the comments, you have 6 months to cross the border and get your residency done. And it has to be that first time after you get your if you visit the consulate in the United States, you get the first step. Step 2 is to go through to cross the border and get your passport stamped with a 30-day visa. And then step 3 is with the immigration in Mexico. And there are timelines for all of that. But once you do this part in the United States, on your next trip to Mexico, you have to do the next part. Otherwise, you're going to start the process over.
That's right.
And Rocky Point counts. Okay, so yeah, what else? What final thoughts do you have for us?
Oh my gosh. I will say a lot of times people ask me, what do you wish you had known? What would you do differently? What would you have done differently if you knew before you got there? And the only thing I would have done differently is come soon.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we have loved every second. The fact that being able to afford stuff is nothing to sneeze at, first of all. To go and get your nails done and it's $10, or to go to Pilates and it's $5, or whatever else, that's nothing to sneeze at. Your money going further, especially when you're a startup or whatever you're doing, makes a big difference. But the biggest thing is people. I'm sure every city, state, neighborhood is different. But here in Merida, people are so outgoing. And you end up, every time you leave the house, you have a laugh with someone. Because they'll tease you over your Spanish. And then they'll teach you the right way to say something. And you have a moment. And things had gotten so divisive where we lived. And I was just like tense all the time because a beef you're in with your neighbor, your coworker, whatever. And so to come here and have everyone feel like they're pulling together, it was a game changer. People ask what we miss, and there's nothing that's not people. Nothing that's not people. And now we have all these ways to connect with people that we didn't used to have.
Yes. Yeah, I think, and plus Mexico's so close to the United States, as I mentioned. It's easy to get home to see family. My family all came down. My extended family came down for last Christmas and spent the holidays down in Mexico, which is so much better than Wisconsin. Sorry, guys, but yeah, come on down. Anywhere you want to come down for Christmas, I would love to have the family come on down. So, well, we are at the top of the hour now, so thank you so much. We're at the top of the hour and the bottom of my cup of coffee / tequila. So thank you so much, Jen, for sharing. And hopefully some of you will make it over to the conference coming up in about a month or so. And yeah, leave some comments down below. Those comments will be for me. Jen won't necessarily read those comments. If you have comments or questions for Jen, head over to expatsi.com and she'll be able to help you out over there. So once again, thank you so much. And hasta luego from Portland, Oregon, and from Merida, Mexico. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks for having me.